ask you a question. If a lender approved you for a $600,000 home, should you buy that $600,000 home? Most people immediately think, well, if the bank says I can afford it. But here's what I've learned after helping families buy homes. Just because you can doesn't necessarily mean that you should. As a realtor, I'm honestly someone who truly cares about helping and guiding people build lives that they love. I think the better question isn't, how much will the bank let me? It's how much house still allows me to enjoy my life. Because the goal really isn't home ownership. The goal is peace of mind. So today we're going to talk about how to find a budget that not only supports not just your mortgage, but your dreams, your family, your lifestyle, and your future. So again, I want to backtrack a little bit. In episode 2, we talked about whether you should buy now or wait. And again, this is something you have to find in yourself because listening to the outside noise is not going to be much help for you. I want you to feel empowered to make the decision that's best for you because, again, only you know that answer. Today's question is, if you are ready to buy and you think it is your time, how much home should you actually buy? So let's talk about this for a second. I want to break one myth, okay? One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is I'll just buy the best and most expensive home that I qualify for. But I want to remind you, buying a home isn't about a competition. Bigger home doesn't always mean better home. Sometimes the most expensive home with the most expensive amenities actually comes with more stress and more worry. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather have some peace than necessarily a bigger kitchen. So, what I want to teach to you today is another framework that I have made that's going to help you to decide what your budget is before you even talk to a lender. Because yes, your next in line move might be to talk to a lender, but I think the best transactions come when you have clarity of how much you actually want to spend, not how much they approve you for, but how much you really have in your budget. So we're going to talk about our build framework, and this is going to talk about building your monthly budget, understanding the true cost of a home, being able to identify what your priorities are, leaving room for your lifestyle, and then finally being able to decide with confidence what your monthly budget is. Okay, so I'm going to go through each letter with you today and we're going to talk about it. And of course, if you ever have any questions or want to chat, of course, let me know. So let's talk about B first, building your budget. Okay. You don't want to just start with the house. You want to start with your monthly expenses that you have, because if you have any loans or things that are a certain amount every single month, you want to build it around that. And you also want to ask yourself, what do I want my life to look like? Is there a special subscription you pay for every month? What do you want to have room? Maybe you want a house with a pool. Then we have to think how much is going to cost to take care of every single month. Or maybe you want a house with a big grass backyard and a big grass front yard. Are you going to mow that? Or are you going to hire a landscaper? And what is that going to cost? What will that look like in your budget? And how much margin do you want? A home needs to fit the life that you're living, not the other way around. So let's also talk about understanding the cost of a home, because making a budget is great. And we want to know about what amount you want to be for your mortgage every single month, what you would be able to sleep at night for, comfortable with. But we also want to understand that a cost of a home, as I mentioned a little bit before, is only the mortgage. The mortgage is just one piece. Embedded in that mortgage sometimes is your taxes and your insurance. So how much are you able to allow for that? And then sometimes it even goes beyond that. Do you have an HOA that you want to live in? Maybe you really prefer an HOA. That is a yearly cost or a quarterly cost or even a monthly cost, depending on where you're at. How much is lawn care? How much are utilities every month? Just a quick story. One time we moved to a home here in Pinellas County and we did not expect our water to be as expensive as it was. And funny enough, we had left the sprinklers on what we thought was a decent amount. And when we got our first water bill, we were in shock. So I just want to encourage you to know that some of these questions you can ask too when you're interested in a home is asking them once, what's your monthly water cost? What's your monthly electric bill? Like, what do you keep your AC at? Where does that bill fall? And that way it can help you plan accordingly as you get to that point. Another thing you want to think about is furniture. If this house is not coming furnished, do you have furniture? Are you going to need to purchase furniture? Just things to think about. And finally, maintenance. You know, a home has a lot of maintenance, roofs, ACs, electrical, plumbing, things that break that you need to fix. So, owning a home is absolutely wonderful. And it's such a great goal. And that's why I love helping guide people through this process. But I want you to see the entire picture of having a home. It's not just buying a home, it's an investment. And if you take care of that investment properly, it can be so incredibly wonderful. And then let's talk about I. I want you to identify your priorities in life. And even more so with the house. Even if you have the house, what do you want to do outside the house that really lights you up? Do you want to travel if you're anything like me? Do you want to take your kids to Disney? Because if you live in Florida and you're close enough to Orlando, we do have annual passes, and that is a great thing. We've done it. It's really fun. Do you want to go out to dinner on the weekends and try the really trendy restaurants? Do you have a hobby that you need to support that you absolutely love? They're not really extra expenses. I feel like these expenses are ones that are allowing you to live the full life you want to live. Buying a home shouldn't mean giving up all of that. I'm not saying there won't be some sacrifices made. Look, I'm a mom and a wife and a homeowner myself. And there are some sacrifices, of course, that come with that. But the true things that light you up in life, we should try our best to be able to fit both those in. And then L, we want to leave room. We want to leave room. And this is one thing that I think people might not see or forget. Life happens, and it might not just be the house. Like, just a quick story. Our second home that we purchased, we were there a week. And thank God it was November, but it was a week and our whole AC unit just crapped out. And when we did our inspection, they were like, look, it probably doesn't have enough time, but we did not expect it to break down the week after, which it's life. It happens. And we had to take a lot of our savings out to purchase a new air conditioning. And why I tell you this story is because life truly happens. And if it's not the house, if you're anything like me and have a family, my kid needs braces. My kid wants to go on a travel extra costs for school. So we want to make sure as we're looking at our finances and we're building this budget that's a really great one for our lives, we want to make sure we're also we're having savings in there. Like, how much do you want to allot in savings towards this home and towards whatever's going to happen? Because I think a lot of people save for the down payment and the closing costs, but they forget that they also need to be saving for any maintenance on the home as well. Because leaving room in your budget kind of gives you this peace of mind, and peace of mind, I feel like, is the most priceless thing you can have. And then finally, we want to decide with confidence, not emotion, not pressure from mom, dad, sister, brother, cousin, lender, and not comparing. Just because you might want a home in a different area because it's more cost effective and you can get more house, or because someone says you can't afford it and why don't you give up this? That ultimately has to be your decision, and no one should judge you for that. Your peace of mind, everyone's peace of mind is different. So I just want to encourage you, if you're able, before you speak to a lender, and really get an idea of what you can afford and what your numbers are. When they tell you, hey, you can afford more than that, you with confidence can say, look, we've really sat down, we've really talked about this. We know what our expenses are. We know what expenses might be coming up. And this is the number we're comfortable with. It is going to make the process of buying the home so much better because you've already decided what your number is versus someone else telling you your number and then you making a decision you might not have known had you not started with this. So, I want to talk a little bit about what I have learned. Okay. And I used to think as a realtor that the goal was just to help someone buy their dream home, right? The biggest house they could afford, the one with all the bells and whistles. But over time, I've realized something, and that is the happiest homeowners weren't always the one with the biggest and the best homes, or what I thought they should have. Okay. They were the ones that still had it in their budget to live the life that made them happy, to travel, to celebrate birthdays, to be able to save for your future. They were able to enjoy their home instead of constantly worrying about, I got to pay for this and I got to pay for that. And that completely changed the way that I guide my clients today. It's something I have now been able to foresee and give guidance on before people can make that final decision. One of the best things you can do before even looking at homes, like I'm saying, is really decide on that comfortable payment before you talk to a lender, before they tell you what you're qualified for. Because sometimes I feel like we get these like starry eyes where we're like, oh my gosh, we can afford this. And then when it really comes down to it, you're not necessarily comfortable spending that actual amount. Just to give you an example, our first home that we ever bought, I think we got approved for like somewhere in where you said 300s, or maybe it was like 250 or something a lot higher than what we actually had gone for. And it was funny because I literally had that thought. I was like, oh my gosh, I can afford that much. That's crazy. I never thought that. And then when me and my husband had really sat down and crunched the numbers, we were like, wait a second, if we purchase something like that, that is going to really stretch us every single month. And so we had decided actually to buy a home a little bit further from our jobs that gave us a little more buying power. And it was a great decision for us because at the time, the market was wonderful and we actually did very well on that decision. But had we had gone the other way, I don't know if it would have been the same outcome. Walk into the lender meeting, always know what feels right for you and your family and who you're making this decision with, because you want to make that decision from a place of confidence and not pressure from other people like a realtor or a lender. At the end of the day, our jobs as realtors is to guide you and give you the information you need to make the best decision for you. Because our job isn't to tell you what to do, it's just to empower you to make the right decision for yourself. So let's talk about the next aligned move. Okay, so this week, I want you to ask yourself, if you do want to buy now, what monthly payment would allow me to sleep at night? What kind of life do I want my home to support for me? Am I buying this house just to buy the house, or am I trying to build a life? And then I want you to write those answers down because they'll help guide you every decision you make from here on out. And my biggest advice when you're asking yourself these deep questions, because I think sometimes as humans, we want to avoid asking ourselves the hard questions or avoid looking at our budget, right? Because it is a little overwhelming and it is a little scary. But when you truly sit down, sometimes you realize you have more than you thought, or there are things that you thought at one time lit you up and you wanted to keep. And then you're like, wait a second, I don't really use that anymore. That could be something that could go towards my future home or my future life. So allow yourself that time to really be quiet, ask yourself the right questions. If you're buying with somebody else, sit down together, talk about what expenses you want and what you can live without, or what is really important to you right now. And then find that number. Don't be afraid to find out what it is, because I promise you, all that self awareness is going to be a game changer for you when it comes to having your home. So, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. If this conversation helped you think differently about your home ownership or buying, I'd love to invite you to subscribe right here on YouTube and become a part of our growing community. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for being here, and following the show and leaving a review helps more people discover these conversations. And of course, I would love to hear from you. So I would love to know when you're going through this process, you know, you want to buy. What is the most important thing to you? Is it that monthly budget? Is it finding the best bang for your buck? Or is it where you live? Is it having financial freedom? So buying a house that maybe is less what the lender says you can afford, but allowing yourself to save for the future or other expenses. Is it the backyard for your kids? Is it the shorter commute time? Leave a comment below. I will go through them. And of course, some of them might even inspire a future episode. So before we go, remember, you don't have to have the answer today. You don't need to know right now what you're going to do today or even tomorrow. You just need to have the courage to take the next aligned step. So thank you again for allowing me to be part of your journey. Until next time, keep building a life you love, one aligned move at a time.